Now, as reef hobbyists, we love shopping for coral, and there's nothing more exciting than doing that for your brand new reef aquarium. So in this video, I've got my top 5 tips when shopping for starter coral for your new reef tank. And I've come to see, wait for it, Australia's unofficial queen of coral, Anya Narowski. How are you, Anya?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you, that's very nice of
You like
you
that
to
one?
say.
And in today's video, we're going to go through a top 5 tips when shopping for starter coral for your new reef aquarium. I've got 4 tips up my sleeve.
And he won't tell me.
I won't tell Anya. I'm going to leave the last tip to Anya. The first 2 tips, Anya, are pretty easy going. The second 2 are going to be maybe a little bit contentious. I want to see if Anya agrees with me.
Fun.
And then the last one's up to you.
Okay.
We good?
No worries.
All right. My number 1 tip when shopping for starter corals for your aquarium is to choose corals from your local fish store. Yay or nay? Oh, by the way, yay or nay, Australian for yes or no?
I absolutely agree with that. But when it's your first corals, going to a professional establishment where the aquarists, it's our job to be able to guide you effortlessly through these choices. Yep. And you're going to get all the aftercare and support.
Even if you're an established aquarist and you are doing another reef tank, every tank's different. Every journey's different, and it really helps just to have a familiar, happy face that you can go and see in person and just chinwag, no Australian term, chinwag and actually just nut through some problems together without feeling like you're by yourself.
There's so many benefits to being close to your LFS to some capacity. Yep. You never know when you need a favor, and you may not have real friends out there in the world to lend you a skimmer or talk about a strange reading that you got or an interesting observation at 10 p.m. at night. You know, we're here to make this hobby easier for people. Yep. And to really try and stop people from giving up because it's of misinformation or because it's been too difficult.
Yeah. So my number 2 tip when shopping for starter corals is to wherever possible buy aquacultured corals.
Oh, I like that tip.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Now it can be a little bit difficult depending on what coral you're buying.
Yes.
But if you're a new aquarist, I can't help but feel like it's going to be the easiest path to success. What do you think? Yay or nay?
Yay. Yay. People feel good about purchasing aquaculture corals. Promoting sustainability of those ecosystems in any way, we feel good. Yep. And aquacultured corals are notoriously much more resilient. Yep. They've often been selected intentionally because of a prominent feature, color, growth, shape or structure.
And even selected unintentionally just by the highs and lows of being in an aquarium.
Yeah, that's right.
With parameter swings and all sorts of
things.
That's
right.
So hardiness must come into their physiology as they start to go years through the actual hobby.
Multiple captive grown generations of anything is going to create some form of resilience.
If you're starting a new tank, let's face it, no one likes to kill animals.
Absolutely.
So if we can reduce the chance of that happening by having some real tank hardy corals, then why wouldn't we do that?
I also think there's something to say about the chance of having pests come through with wild coral.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yep.
Having just spent 10 hours unpacking a wild coral order yesterday, we are reminded that extra levels of processing, dipping, speculation, scrutiny is so important to have an end result. And we were cutting things on the bandsaw, which I don't always do. And some of these LPS, for example, they had parasites lodged all the way up in the skeleton, like boring lithophaga muscle. Whoever bought that, if we didn't remove that, they might lose that coral, blame their parameters or something, but really it was always doomed, you know? Whereas an aquacultured piece doesn't tend to have any live rock or not a lot of that older skeleton to have as many potential pests. And so you're kind of setting yourself up initially on the better foot.
I feel like we may have a slight disagreement. But my number 3 tip when shopping for starter corals is to know what reef tank you are ultimately trying to build and to buy the starter corals according to the fact that you want to have them in your display forever. So let me explain. So traditionally, we had a mixed reef tank. And one might say, okay, the starter coral in a mixed reef tank would be some of the softies. We'll start with the softies. But then what happens if we are fully interested in an LPS display? Or what happens if we are truly interested in a Stony, an SBS display? Do we still buy those softies and then put all our time and our energy, our money and our emotion and our resources into them only to throw them away or hand them on or give them to someone else? Shouldn't we possibly select, and I think in all categories there are some easier ones, some easier alternatives, so wouldn't it make more sense to select the corals that we're happy with in our display and we invest our time into those? Yay or nay?
Yay. I do agree with that. I've never thought about that before, because we so openly take on people's, we call it rehoming.
Yeah.
I think every LFS should be there for that.
And it's great that you do. Is it possible that some LFSs don't do that?
Absolutely.
Are they overwhelmed
Heaps
by
don't.
sarcophytes
Heaps
or
don't.
similarias or?
Yeah.
So I relate this concept to freshwater tanks. So back in the day, freshwater tanks, the idea was to stock them up as much as you can with fast-growing stem plants that would actually allow the stabilisation of the tank, the biofauna, the microfauna to stabilise and the tank to find a stride. Then you would take out the ones that you don't want and replace with the ones that you do. Now, those plants might get traded in, they might get thrown away. But then along came Takashi Amano. Now, he said, no, let's aquascape the tank the way we want it. Let's plan out the whole tank in one go with the exact plants that we want, and let's devote our time and energy into what we ultimately want to achieve. And that's the way I see reef tanks.
I really haven't ever thought about that before, and I do think it's a really valid point. We are frequently in a position where that leather coral that somebody bought initially because we didn't really allow them to buy anything more difficult, is overgrowing their setup, and it's overwhelming the scape. And the best part about having that relationship with your LFS is that I will take that large leather, and then somebody like yourself with a 12-footer, someone like yourself is looking for large leathers, which aren't as often collected from the wild, so you kind of do rely on these trade-ins. So it's not so bad, but I understand what you're saying, like why bother growing it or devoting your energy and time to it,
and money and magnesium and calcium alkalinity and phosphate remover and electricity and all that sort of stuff that goes with it.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll have a happy medium there.
I think so too.
Tip number 4.
Oh, to 4 already.
We are.
Fun.
When shopping for starter corals for your new aquarium would be to buy multiples of the exact same coral.
You need to explain this one.
For that, I have 2 reasons. The first reason is a sense of achievement.
Yes.
If you plant your 3 Seriatoporas on the same rock in close proximity, and they are the same coral, they will grow together, they will form a colony faster, and will give you a sense of pride and achievement that you're doing something well sooner.
Faster, yes.
My second reasoning is that, and this is borrowed again from freshwater tanks, one of the true things in aesthetic is repetition. So we would have all seen reef tanks where it's just got one of everything and it's a collection. But a true reef doesn't happen that way. A true reef has repetition that goes through it. They're the same. You might have 3 corals in a patch that's 3 square meters, 3 species. And so getting a true natural aesthetic is only achieved by buying multiples of the same coral. Yay or nay?
Initially I was like, what? No. But what you say about repetition is incredibly true. It's visually so appealing to see that repetition, and I see that a lot with my soft coral tank at home. And I hadn't ever had an octocoral tank before, so I didn't realize, subtle differences within species can be nice for a bit of texture or a bit of contrast, but that shape repetition certainly. Back to the first point about having 3 bird's nest frags. That is exactly how reef rehabilitation works. The way the government will plant the same coral constantly, and they on those racks out in the ocean. And initially it's always a wonder, people go, why aren't you promoting diversity? but it's not. It's a faster way to generate and regenerate a giant colony. And when you've got the
Biological
ocean
mass.
as your limit,
Yeah,
you've got all the space in the world. So this 10 meter can just be that staghorn, that blue stag, and so on. Yeah.
Now, that's 4 tips.
Oh, it's my turn.
Absolutely. I get to say yay or nay.
Oh.
So our 5th tip when shopping for starter corals is from our unofficial Australian Queen of Coral.
I really want to preface this one because I really expected you to say parameter stability, testing, water, but can we just pause and say we're under the assumption that your tank's ready for coral?
Absolutely.
Like obviously, right? Because that really is important.
Yeah. But there is that point where you go step in the store, you got to jump into the deep end and buy that coral.
Yeah, it's time. Like you're ready. That's already been classified.
Yeah.
So I think that you should stock your tank bottom up. And my drive for this is lighting, familiarizing yourself with your lighting system, the intensity of it, and also I feel like all of the more resilient corals in each category, SPS, LPS, soft corals, are actually low light requirement corals. And I'll post some examples so you can think about it. We used to be really adamant, like you must buy soft corals in the first 1 to 3 months. Once you feel familiar with them opening, closing, feeding, schedule, testing, you are then qualified and ready to do LPS. Anything with a skeleton, you must know how to test magnesium, meow, 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 right? But really, there are some really easy care LPS corals. When I think about what they are, Cataphilia jardini, they're at the bottom. Fungia, they're at the bottom. Heliofungia, at the bottom. Well, Duncan up the top. They're not too bad. But soft corals, Rhodactis, are really easy soft coral to start with. Discosoma, corallomorphs, are a really easy soft coral. And they go at the bottom. Easiest SPS. SPS doesn't necessarily mean high light.
No.
Like, there is Leptocerus or, Cyphastria or Samacora. These like low light environments. And they do much better in the shade. And so, I'm thinking as a general, work your way up, and when you feel confident to have your Radion running at 80%, or you've measured your PAR and you understand, well, this light is very, very strong.
Yep.
This was my proposition because I assumed that your top 4 would definitely be something, stuff really obvious, but you're right, Adam.
So I would come at that one. I'm going to say yay on that.
Well, thank you for agreeing.
Even though I haven't done it.
Yeah.
But the reason I say yay is I actually thought about this when I was actually starting to place some coral in Palau Reef. And Palau Reef has this tiered rockwork that comes out from the actual island structure itself. And the realisation came when I had a ex-Gallery Aquatica sarcophyton about the size of 1/2 metre round, that it's going to shed a fair bit of shade below it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about what you're saying from an aquascaping and a tiered structural reef kind of format, that if you plant higher up, it's going to limit you, and it's a Montipora that might plate out, or it's a big Sarco or something like that, then you might have nothing you can plant underneath.
Yeah. And then you can reserve those premium, positions on that upper rockwork for something. You can invest in something maybe more expensive, or maybe a little bit rarer, or a little bit, a unique colour.
Okay. All right. So that is Anya and Adam's top 5 tips for shopping for starter corals. Now, because I've come all this way from Coffs Harbour, I have to do some shopping of starter corals for myself.
We're here to help.
We're here to help, so let's go. Thank you very much, Anya.
No worries. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
See ya.